Hello and welcome back to the game room, all 1,480 of you. We are 20 away from 1,500 subs, and today's video just kind of came to me last week. I put out 4 videos last week. Holy crap. Not going to be doing that again. At least I don't think. Maybe I will. I don't know. I got some good growth from it, so maybe I should. But today, I wanted to talk about the biggest bait and switches in gaming. Now, this is going to be a very biased list. These are my own personal bait and switches. So, if you don't see things that are like, oh my god, the Ring of Death from the Xbox. No, we're talking about stuff that matters to me.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life. This is my game room.
And the whole inspiration for this video is a game that was the first game I bought for the PS2. I actually had this game in my collection for, I want to say, 2 years before I got a PS2 because I love the first one so much, and that game is Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, why is this a bait and switch? Well, those of you who remember and played this game while it was current, there was a demo that came out that took place at the opening chapters of the game on a ship. Lo and behold, once you get past that portion of the game, you find yourself playing as a new character named Raiden. Now, this was before Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, where Raiden became a badass. At the time, you went from being Snake to some guy named Raiden who was a poor man's ninja, and you play as him for a significant portion of the game. Nah, no joke here. You play as Raiden for a long time. If not, I'd say 70% of the game. Eventually you do turn back to Snake, but this was part of the reason why I waited to get a PS2 is because I bought the game and then I remember either my friend telling me or somehow it got through the grapevine that you're not playing as Snake through most of it, which it really didn't compute. How on earth, how are you gonna mess up the winning formula so badly where you're playing as a Metal Gear Solid game as not Snake? And ironically, in Metal Gear Solid 3, you're not playing as Snake either, but that one actually worked out. So you mean to tell me that the first game we get to play as Snake again is Metal Gear Solid 4 when he becomes Grandpa Snake? I don't know. I mean, the Metal Gear Solid series in general is kind of like that. But yes, Metal Gear Solid 2, biggest bait and switch in my opinion, probably bigger than all these. This one to this day still bothers me, is the fact that you're playing through Raiden. Although now, no one really talks about it, and it bothers me. It really does. But that's how we're starting. Now you know where we're going with this whole video. So the first game is that. Alright, moving on from that. This one is a recent entry into this. It's not really as much of a bait and switch as much as us believing in Konami when we shouldn't have. And that would be Contra Rogue Corps. Or Rogue Corps. I don't know why I got my hopes up thinking this was going to be good. It wasn't. That's really the extent of this. Not much of a bait and switch. I guess I expected it to be good, and it was terrible. And it really is terrible. Like, no joke. Blazing Chrome. Phenomenal game. If you want to play a game that plays like the old school Contras, pick up Blazing Chrome. It is the closest thing I've found in recent years. It's heavily inspired by more Contra 3 than anything, I would say. But yeah, Contra Rogue Corps. Freaking terrible. This... From the opening cringe to just the fact that it's 3D space, just that you have a health meter. I don't know. Everything is wrong with that game. I don't know why. I expected Konami. Why? Why do you do this to us? Give us a new Castlevania. Give us some good games, or at least sell your properties, please, please. Okay. Now this one hurts. This one really hurts because it was so hype when it was announced. I want to say in E3 2015. And then after that, it just successively chipped away at my excitement. And that is Final Fantasy VII Remake, which already you thought the game was getting remade. No! It was originally supposed to be episodic. And then they said, no, we're cutting it into 3s. But the biggest bait and switch, which I know some people will skewer me over this, but hey, I'm an old school RPG fan. They got rid of the combat. Oh, well, you can go play Final Fantasy VII if you want the combat. No! You know why Resident Evil Remake is one of the greatest remakes of all time, if not the greatest remake of all time? Yeah, I can go back and play Resident Evil on the PlayStation, but no, you improved everything. and kept the combat and kept the pre-rendered backgrounds and the story and enhanced it. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, you pretty much just homogenized one of the greatest games ever made to play exactly like, you know, a Kingdom Hearts game or some other game that no one's gonna remember in several years. Like, honestly, if you never played Final Fantasy VII and you played this, are you really gonna remember it? But that was the first time they bait and switched you. So yes, they got rid of the combat. Okay, I still bought it. I still played it. It's actually one of the first things I played during the pandemic, if not the first thing I played during the pandemic, ironically. They changed the story. Spoilers, they changed the story. So not only did you change the combat, but you also bait and switched us with now, oh, we don't want to remake Final Fantasy VII, we want to improve on it. And I'm sorry, I don't trust Modern Square. This isn't the Final Fantasy XIV team that's working on this. I mean, I haven't even played that, but I know people love it. So now, at the end of the first game, we're going off into, like, it seems like everyone at Modern Square loves Crisis Core and loves Zack and wants to get him so in there and change this and that. And now, going forward, I have no idea where this game is going. I mean, Jesse's alive. Are we going to get Sid Highwind? Are things too problematic to be in the game? I'm just not excited for it. I'm going to still buy it because I'm a fool. But I was... Not only did they fool me once, Jerry, they got me twice. And changing the story at the end of it was just, you gotta be kidding me. So yeah, that one right there, that one hurts. That one hurts. And sure, yeah, there's a turn-based mode, my ass, turn-based mode. First of all, it puts it on the easiest setting, and then it still sucks. So yeah, there you go. That one, oh god, that one sucks. Almost as painful, actually probably more painful than that, because this was the one that was the first bait and switch back in the day when you didn't have the resources you have now. So I bought Toe Jam and Earl 2 Panic on Funkatron expecting a good time like the first game. But no, I remember when taking it home, because when you bought a game, the ritual, you buy the game from Toys R Us, you hand them the slip, they hand you the game, it's in shrink wrap, you look at the box, you open it on the way home, you open the manual, and as I'm going through it, as I'm going through the box, as I'm going through the manual, I'm looking at like, interesting. Why do all the images, why are they all 2D looking like a platformer? That's weird. How are they gonna do that isometric view with those screenshots? Interesting. It's not the same game. Stupid Sega changed the formula so that it would be like every other platformer on the market. And I know this game has its fans out there. I know. I hear you guys. I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you. I'm glad you like this game. It's not good. It's just not. It's not good. Not when you had one of the best games ever made before it. One of the greatest co-op experiences ever. Yeah, there's co-op in this, but it really is a hollow experience in my opinion. And I just still to this day can't get over it. So if you like Panic on Funkatron, good for you. I don't. And it was even sadder when the new one came out, the fourth game, which still to this, I didn't like it that much because I thought they tried to do too much. So it really was one of those instances of catching lightning in a bottle. But I've seen some of the early footage of the alleged Toe Jam and Earl 2 before it was switched to a platformer, and that looked damn good. So another one of those rabbit holes where maybe someday I'll get put into an alternate Mandela Effect universe and get to play Toe Jam and Earl 2 and be happy. But something else that doesn't make me happy is another low-hanging fruit, but I'm going to pick it, and that is Wind Waker. Now, I will say, I'm not a huge fan of Wind Waker, but I'm not a huge detractor of Wind Waker. My issue with Wind Waker is more so the fact that there's a lot of cut content, because before this you had Zelda 2 where you had tons of dungeons, you had Zelda 1 where there's tons of dungeons, you had the Ocarina of Time, tons of dungeons, Link to the Past, tons of dungeons. Then they did Majora's Mask and they went off into some weird tangent, and I was hoping, okay, return to form with Wind Waker, because before this they had showed that famous cutscene of Ganon and Link squaring off in a very mature, very adult looking graphical style. And I'm not a huge graphics hound, but when it comes to Zelda, I'm leaning more onto the Ocarina of Time style than the cel-shaded Wind Waker. Though I will say, Breath of the Wild kind of hits that happy medium, but this was years before that. And just seeing it immediately, like, oh my god, you have Kid Link, Toon Link, You have a sister now. They've added a more extended prologue, and it wasn't what I wanted. It has aged very well. I will say, of the Zelda's post Ocarina of Time, this one's up there with one of my favorite ones before Breath of the Wild renewed it, because I'm not a huge fan of Twilight Princess. I'm not a huge fan of Skyward Sword, because they all relied on gimmicks. That's where Nintendo gets a little too high on its gimmicks. But yes, when they bait and switched us, telling us we were going to get this cool adult graphics, and then gave us Wind Waker, and then they stuck it to us again by saying, oh no, Twilight Princess will be that. But then by then the Wii came out, and unfortunately I played Twilight Princess with the stupid waggle controls. So that has a horrible experience for me too. So yeah, don't like it. But yeah, that's that there. That one's that. Okay. Now this is one that a lot of you older people remember. Yet again, because we didn't have magazines or we had magazines, but we didn't have as much up-to-date information. So really, you took risks on these things. And that would be the Super Nintendo release of Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat. Now, why is this bad? You know why it's bad. There's no blood in it. The fatalities have been gimped, and it really is the worst way of playing this game outside of maybe playing on the Game Boy. The Genesis had a blood code. And I remember, because at the time, it was always like, well, the Genesis has this. I gotta get the Super Nintendo version. It's gonna be better. But we rented it. I never owned this game. So this actually I found for $1 in a thrift store, if you can believe it. I got a huge deal on that. Still, not that I'm going to play because it sucks. You know, Mortal Kombat 2 improved it big time. But there is no blood. There's no blood whatsoever. It's sweat. And the fatalities are lame. And at the time, especially Mortal Kombat, you just wanted the fatalities. That's all you did. And the Genesis had the hard controller to pull them off, even though it was only 3 buttons. And Mortal Kombat, it really didn't hit its stride until the second one because this version was gimped. They bait and switched us. They told us this would be the good arcade conversion, but nope. Nintendo had to censor it and make it suck. And boy, did it suck. Alright, getting down here, we're going to move on to one that's a little emblematic of a whole system. I have two that are bait and switch of a whole system, and the first one I'm going to talk about is the Wii U in general. The Wii U was a bait and switch and was terrible, but I'm specifically talking about the Wii U having third-party support. So my entire Wii U collection, other than Kickstarted titles or indie titles like Shovel Knight, these are the only third-party games I have. Which they may not even... Yeah, Tank. This game still has a freaking GameStop sticker on it that I got because it was white. And I'm like, ooh, I want a white label. They're blue. Funky Barn and Devil's Third, because I had to get Devil's Third, which is still sealed. And I'd like to play it someday. But yeah, these are literally my third-party games, which aren't even anything major. There was no third-party support, EA. You lied to us. Activision, you lied to us. Other than the release titles, like Batman Armored Edition and I think one of the Ninja Gaidens and a few other things, and once the system was out, they read the room quick and were like, peace, we're gone. So that was another one. That was one that I didn't regret it hugely, but I just never could get over the Wii U. I mean, that whole thing was just a disaster. I sat out the Wii generation for similar reasons, but they got me on the Wii U. They got me. But hey, the exclusives on it that didn't go over to the Switch, which is what? Xenoblade Chronicles X? I'm sure if I ever have 150 hours to waste, I'll try that out someday. Okay. Now, we have a rare good example. Now, this is a bait and switch that is a good example. Now, there will be little mild spoilers, but if you don't know it by now, I can't help you. And that is God of War 2018. Now, I don't know why I believe this, but I truly believe they weren't going to have the Blades of Chaos in this game. And the way they introduced them, have it be a completely separate moveset, is so well handled. It is one of the best examples of a surprise in a game that really shouldn't have been a surprise. But yes, them being in this game, the way it's handled, the build up to it, masterfully done. I'm sad that Ragnarok couldn't recapture this magic, but you really can only pull something off like that once. But God of War 2018, well done for the only good bait and switch on this entire video. Going to one that's not good, and it's another one that everyone remembers, is really just Mass Effect 3, and that just goes for the entire Mass Effect legacy. They really got us. They really made us think that your decisions mattered, because they did. For a lot of people, we didn't play the first one. So the decisions in the first one really, I think, were you could have Rex die, and you could have the choice between Ashley and some other guy. Caden, I think his name was. I think those were the big choices, along with some other stuff. But two felt monumental because you have the suicide mission where if you recruit every character, every single one of them can die. And that felt so tense and good, and getting through it and keeping everyone alive felt monumental. So with that momentum going into the third game where, wow, all my decisions that mattered so much at the end of 2, and then there's those few decisions from 1, they're all going to culminate in 3. And then you get 3, and the entire cast is completely different other than Garrus. You get a couple people back from the first game, but it really made you feel like, oh, all the stuff I did in 2 didn't matter. Because then they just start killing off people from 2 left and right without any call from you, any choice from you. And then there's the ending, which, oh my god, the ending literally was just, oh, do you get blue, do you get red, or do you get green? And you got 10 seconds. Goodbye. And they didn't help themselves by making it so that Shepard has that annoying limp to the finish, even if you reload saves, and it takes, 20-25 minutes to see them all. Now, back in the day, I actually did some playtesting. I was on a list for playtesting for EA, and after this game came out, I actually was contacted to playtest the updated ending, which was good. I mean, at least they gave some context to what happens, because literally it's just saying, all right, game over. Everything's done the blah. Okay. And I do say they improved it with that, but still, having us believe that the choices mattered really burned me and kind of burned me going forward for some of these style of games. I always have my expectations tempered now because of this, because of what I had built up, which, of course, what are you going to do? You can't have all these alternate things that people aren't ever going to see. It's not like they did that. Oh, wait, they did all the time in the PS1 era. I just played Vanguard Bandits. There's 3 different endings, 2 of which you only can see if you take a random ass pathway, 1 of which you can only see after you beat the game. The first time. Imagine putting in content that people could miss. I sure do miss those days. But hey, at least we can pay for it now. And then if the servers are still up, we can download it while it's still up. Gotta love modern gaming, right? But yeah, Mass Effect, oh, what a bummer. Okay, now I think this next bait and switch will kind of get to the crux of my hatred for Sega in some regards, and I'm gonna say it, the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast is a bait and switch. So I bought the Dreamcast in 1999. They ended all support for it, a little over a year later? If that's not a bait and switch, I don't know what is. And I don't know why I keep trusting Sega. They screwed me on Toe Jam Mineral 2. They came out with a Sega CD that looked terrible. The Sega 32X looked terrible. The Saturn, who the hell cared or had one or even knew about it? And then the Dreamcast, it was like, oh, they're finally bringing an arcade experience. Wow, Dynamite Cop looked good. Oh, Sonic Adventure's got to be decent. Oh god, this wrestling game sure does suck. Nothing like the N64 games. But whatever, it had Code Veronica. But no, it was gone. It was gone. And then they took their support to the Xbox. How people love Sega so much. During the 90s, if it was current, they got you with the Genesis and they did nothing but shit all over you for the next 8 years. And yeah, I'm sure people who had the Dreamcast or the Saturn and had some good games, sure, if you had that, sure, you love it. Or if you had the Dreamcast and had some good games, you love it. But as someone who had multiple systems, you always felt robbed for having the Sega one. And when they stopped making systems, I thought, thank God, I can stop giving them a chance. So that's how I feel about the Dreamcast. I still do to this day. And yeah. Now, this one it's kind of a minor bait and switch, but it's funny to me because when I say it, you're going to laugh. And that was, this game was going to be exclusive to the GameCube. It was an exclusive get for the GameCube, and that's how we were going to show Sony and Microsoft that the Nintendo system rules the day. And that game is Resident Evil 4. Yeah, very exclusive Resident Evil 4 that most certainly didn't come out on the PlayStation 2, a year later? Oh, it was so exclusive, they made another version with waggle controls for the Wii. In fact, they're still making remakes of it to this day. There's a VR version of it. Oh, and they're working on a complete remake right now. Not to mention it's on every single system ever since the damn thing came out. I don't know if there's an Xbox version, but yeah. I remember thinking that because that was one of the things back in the, because like I said, I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I had the GameCube. I had it for 2 years before I got a PS2. And I would always have that argument, like, we have Resident Evil 4. Huh? We got Resident Evil Remake. What? And then they got it. And that was when I first learned about something called timed exclusives. That was not something I thought could be changed. Once I'm like, oh, well, it's obviously theirs. They can't do anything about it. Nope. You can't. And yeah, I don't know why it bothers me, but it does. And it's probably one of the games, I have it 4 times. I have it 4 times across different generations. And I'll probably buy the damn remake eventually. It's kind of funny that I remember being so happy that it was an exclusive. But hey, we still got Resident Evil 0. I know there's a remake of that too. We got nothing. Got none. Screw you, Capcom. And the last game I'm going to talk about, which I'm sure will be controversial. I didn't grab it. Hold on. The last game we're going to talk about, which I don't think I need an explanation for, bait and switch games. You can't think of anything else that's higher on the list than The Last of Us Part 2. Because you know what? You expected to get a game like the first one with Joel in it, and I don't think he makes it too far. I haven't played it yet. I haven't played it because I know that you have to... hearing about that, I don't know. Should I play it? I know my buddy Rewind says you should just sit down and play it. And I've been meaning to, but at this point, I kind of feel like playing the remaster on the PS5 before I play Part 2. Because I know my buddy Jared says it's very good. But yeah, that one's a big bait and switch because I don't know. There you have it. But yes, those are my biggest bait and switches in gaming. I hope you enjoyed this meandering rant of ridiculousness. As a reminder, I have a Patreon. Thank you to the Patreons who do support the channel. You guys really help me out a lot and make me feel like I'm not just doing this for nothing. And to all you guys who subscribe as well, thank you as well. Checking out the video, liking, commenting. As a reminder, I put out a new video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you guys. Take care.